Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. We are retired New York City police detectives and 9/11 first responders. We are out here and breaking news tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, this is part of a doubleheader. Breaking news, Stephen Stearns. Just 5 or 6 hours ago, the prosecutor announced he'll be charged with capital murder, and rightfully so, in the death of Madeline Soto. Stephen Stearns charged with capital murder. Prosecutors announced today they will seek the death penalty. They had 45 days from his arraignment, which was April 29th. Remember, this scumbag decided not to show up for his own arraignment. He waived his appearance April 29th. They had 45 days. That would have brought us to June 13th, Thursday. They would have had to make a decision by Thursday. They made it today. So let's take a listen to this. This is local coverage, and we're going to get it straight from the local media.
On top of breaking news out of Osceola County, where prosecutors have just laid out a case for the death penalty in the murder of a 13-year-old girl. Madeline Soto, just 13, found dead in a wooded area in St. Cloud back in March, just a few days after she was reported missing. Good evening, I'm Greg Wormuth.
I'm Darlene Jones. Such a tragic story. Prosecutors told us today that they will seek the death penalty against her mother's boyfriend, Stephen Stearns, who is now charged with her murder. Channel 9 Sabrina Majore is live in the studio. And Sabrina, you read over that filing from prosecutors, and they provided a number of reasons for this decision.
And Darlene, prosecutors said a whole bunch of factors are contributing to this decision. For starters, they say the crime was committed while Stearns was engaged in aggravated child abuse. Prosecutors also say the victim was especially vulnerable because Stearns had a family-like relationship with Maddie Soto. And they say that the crime was especially heinous and cruel. According to investigators, Stearns was living with Maddie and her mother at the time. And you might recall Stearns is...
How many of you are repulsed
also facing
by a scene like this, where you see Jennifer Soto rubbing? This is the utmost worst video that the footage that they could have put in here, because this depicts Jennifer Soto, the mom of Madeline Soto, consoling and hugging and rubbing this monster's shoulders. It's repulsive. Somebody just said it in the chat, 100% repulsive. And it gets the,
oh, hell no.
Major league, oh, hell no.
According to investigators,
major, oh, hell no.
Was committed while Stearns was engaged in aggravated child abuse. Prosecutors also say the victim was especially vulnerable because Stearns had a family-like relationship with Maddie Soto. And they say that the crime was especially heinous and cruel. According to investigators, Stearns was living with Maddie and her mother at the time. And you might recall Stearns is also facing 60 charges relating to disturbing photos found on his phone. That includes capital sex battery. Prosecutors said today if Stearns is convicted of those sex charges, that's another reason why they will argue for the death penalty. And when Channel 9 sat down with Stearns in the days after Maddie's disappearance, he told our crews that he had dropped Maddie off near a church. Soto's body was instead found in the woods less than a week after she...
I mean, I just got to get your thoughts here. How many people here in the chat feel that the death penalty is warranted in this case? I, for one, feel it 110%. If there was ever a death penalty case to be had, this one reeks it. And people in the chat right away are saying, where is Madeline Soto's mom? Where's Jennifer Soto? Where is she hiding? Did she check herself into a psychiatric center to save her ass? She's got some explaining to do, because she sanctioned Stephen Stearns to sleep in a separate bed, in a separate room with her daughter. She authorized this man to sleep in the same room with her. Where the is she? Why doesn't she have to answer to those questions? And look, there's fan clubs out there for all kinds of people. And I know there's fan clubs for Jennifer Soto. I'm not part of that club. I'm not part of the club. Let me know in the comments what you think. But I'm happy as heck right now. I'm happy because justice is going to be served for Madeline Soto, our victim here. Justice is going to be served by the Osceola County prosecutor.
Breaking news out of Osceola County, where prosecutors have just laid out a case for the death penalty in the murder of a 13-year-old girl. Madeline Soto, just 13, found dead in a wooded area in St. Cloud back in March, just a few days after she was reported missing. Good evening, I'm Greg Wormuth.
I'm Darlene Jones. Such a tragic story. Prosecutors told us today that they will seek the death penalty against her mother's boyfriend, Stephen Stearns, who is now charged with her murder. Channel 9's Sabrina Majore is live in the studio. And Sabrina, you read over that filing from prosecutors, and they provided a number of reasons for this decision.
And Darlene, prosecutors said a whole bunch of factors are contributing to this decision. For starters, they say the crime was committed while Stearns was engaged in aggravated child abuse. Prosecutors also say the victim was especially vulnerable because Stearns had a family-like relationship with Maddie Soto. And they say that the crime was especially heinous and cruel. According to investigators, Stearns was living with Maddie and her mother at the time. And you might recall Stearns is also facing 60 charges relating to disturbing photos found on his phone. That includes capital sex battery. Prosecutors said today if Stearns is convicted of those sex charges, that's another reason why they will argue for the death penalty. And when Channel 9 sat down with Stearns in the days after Maddie's disappearance, he told our crews that he had dropped Maddie off near a church. Soto's body was instead found in the woods less than a week after she was first reported missing. And today, prosecutors said that they plan on proving all of those factors in a trial. Stearns' next court date is scheduled for July 10th.
So July 10th is the next court date for this monster. He's not a human being. He's a monster, Stephen Stearns. And I got to tell you, I am going to go over the probable cause affidavit for the capital punishment. And it is difficult to listen to. Again, this case has been difficult from the get-go. And it's just something that it never gets easy. It never gets easy to hear it. Never gets easy to see it. And when you look at this stuff, I'm just going to go to another news report. Let me just see. I'm not sure if this goes over to the documents, but I have the documents. Let me see what I could do here. I do.
All right, Campbell, we are following some.
All right, hold on a second.
Some breaking news.
Let me just get this back. This is another report from a local station. This story broke just about 5 or 6 hours ago. So again, we rely on local news. This is not out in mainstream media, but this is local. And they are reporting on this as it breaks. And it broke, like I said, 5 or 6 hours ago.
All right, Campbell, we are following some breaking news right now. State prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty for Stephan Stearns in the death of 13-year-old Madeline Soto.
West 2 Summer Knowles joins us in studio. Summer, the state attorney's office says this decision was based on several factors.
Yeah, guys, that's exactly right. And some of those reasons include the crime being especially cruel and the victim being particularly vulnerable because the defendant was in a position of authority over her. Now, Stearns, who is the boyfriend of Madeline's mother, was charged with first-degree murder in April. He told investigators he dropped her off near her middle school the day she went missing, but her body was found in rural Osceola County 5 days later. He was initially arrested on child sex abuse charges after investigations found several disturbing pictures and videos on his phone. They say he had been sexually abusing Madeleine for years. We'll continue to stand.
Sexually abusing her for years while being sanctioned. We heard from Jennifer Soto. She told police in an interview, and I don't want to have to play it again. I don't want people to start throwing up in their mouths again. But she said when she gets anxiety, Jennifer Soto, the mom, said when she gets anxiety, she asks Stephen Stearns to go to another room in their home. We've come to find out it was her father's old bedroom. Go with Madeleine extra bedroom and sleep there while I work through my anxiety. And when I'm out, if I'm not home, you have my permission to sleep in the same room with my daughter. Who does that? I ask that question. I present that question to you. Who does that? And some people in the chat say, DutyRon, what do you want Jennifer Soto to be charged with? Well, for starters, she failed to protect her child, her minor child, arguably 7 or 8 years old. You're allowing a grown man who is not even her father to sleep with her in a separate room privately while you're home. Where do we start? Where do we start with what to charge her with? You know? It's sickening. It's despicable. Disgusting. Filthy. Depraved. Who makes a decision like that with a sound mind? Who makes a decision like that? What parent makes that decision with a good sound mind? Who makes that decision? It's despicable. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. This is ridiculous. Oblivious Benson, good to see you. Look, right away, Oblivious Benson gets her detective's pen out and says negligence, disability fraud, endangerment. I love Oblivious Benson. Oblivious, if you want to come up, let me know. Send me a message. I'd love to have you up as we start delving into these documents. Now, by a show of hands here in the chat, and first of all, let me say thank you to the replay viewers, the moderators, and everyone that's keeping the chat classy. Jacqueline, thank you for becoming a channel member. Thank you for hitting the thumbs up. Everybody, if you could take a moment to hit the thumbs up. We got some reading to do here. I'm going to go through that court document. This broke, somebody said around 3 p.m. I heard about it at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm on the East Coast. Susan King, thank you for sending a super chat. She says little Madeleine was a casualty of her mother's perverse attachment to Stephen Stearns. Some argue that she just wanted him to be happy and offered perhaps her daughter to him as a consolation prize. I don't know. So friends, if you can, just take a moment to hit that thumbs up, share the video, put it out onto your social media platform, and let's get the word out there. All right. If you suffer from PTSD, I'm about to get into some really sticky conversation here. These are the court documents. The state seeks the death penalty against Stephen Stearns in the Madeline Soto case. Osceola County, Florida State Attorney's Office intends to seek the death penalty against Stephen Stearns, the man accused of killing his girlfriend's daughter, 13-year-old Madeline Soto. Stearns is charged with first-degree murder in the case. He is facing one charge of first-degree murder and 60 charges as it relates to sexual battery on a child and possession of sexual material. According to the court documents, the state cited four aggravating circumstances that led to their decision. I'm going to put it on the screen, and unfortunately we have to see this disgusting, filthy demon's face, but we'll try to get rid of this demon's face. And I know the state of Florida will successfully eventually get rid of him. According to the court documents, the defendant was previously convicted of another capital felony or a felony involving the use or threat of violence to a person. These are all of the charges that some people might get confused by this and say, oh, he had a past criminal history. These are the first round of charges that they charged him with before charging him with capital murder. Before the murder charges, the defendant was previously convicted of another capital felony or of a felony involving the use or threat of violence to a person. Second circumstance, the capital felony was committed while the defendant was engaged in the commission of or an attempt to commit aggravated child abuse. The capital felon was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, and that fits the description. And then the fourth The victim of the capital felony was particularly vulnerable due to advanced age or disability, and that could mean advanced or her young age. In this case, Madeline Soto, arguably 7 or 8 years old when he started sexually abusing her. The victim of the capital felony was particularly vulnerable due to advanced age or disability. We know that she also could qualify into this disabled category, or because the defendant stood in a position of familial or custodial authority over the victim. So these are the 4 aggravating circumstances. And friends, I do this only because I care about you guys. If you are suffering from PTSD or any type of anxiety or things like this discussion that we're going to have may be disturbing to you, take a moment to maybe pause the video or wait until we're done with the reading of these court documents, because I only read them over once. So I scanned over them real quick, but I'm going to read them to you here. So for those of you who want to hear this, stick around. Let me know by putting a 1 in the chat if you want to hear it. If you don't and you're going to step out, put a 2. So this way we know how many people are going to be here and how many people are not. Yeah, DigiTV, you could say it. You could spell it right out. I say, fuck Stearns. What about the damn mom? Well, Stearns is the main perpetrator in this. The mom just helped to facilitate this. Okay? In my eyes, Jennifer facilitated this monster. And thank you for your message. Stephen Stearns had easy access to Madeline Soto, in part because her mother failed to secure her. There's no arguing that. There is no arguing that, ladies and gentlemen. I see a lot of people are going to be staying. One, but PTS, major PTSD. LG, listen to it for a bit, and if it gets too much, then go. All right, let's jump into it. She completely facilitated it. Completely. Thank you, Wendy. All right. Well, I wanted to just give this little bit of a buffer here. Jen, no, thank you for being here. Thank you to the mods. Thank you to everyone who's joining. Heather, whatever, thank you for the super chat. I'll get to the super chats in a few minutes, folks. So thank you to everyone who sent super chats. All right, here we go. ATS News is here. Thank you for being here. All right, so this just happened 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is the filing, folks. Filing, this is the file number 67. It got filed at 10:10 and 50 seconds this morning. Actually, 6:07. It said it was filed. So today's the 10th. So it got filed 3 days ago, but it didn't break until this morning. So these filings happen behind the scenes, and they're not obligated to notify the public immediately. They had 45 days, which is Thursday, folks. Let me know in the chat if you could see this court document well. If you need me to make it bigger, I can make it bigger. Let me know in the chat if you could see it good. Just say yes. If you can't see it, or if you need it to be expanded a little bit because of maybe a vision impairment, I'll make it larger. I don't know how much larger I can make the screen, but let me know if yes or no, if you could see it good, and I'll go by what we see here. So state of Florida is the plaintiff versus Stephan Michael Stearns. Here's the case number. This is in the judicial court. I'll try to pop it up one more time. Okay. What's going on here? All right, that's as good as I can get it, friends. That's as good as I can get it. Hopefully, I see a couple people. Just Girl said yes. Make it bigger. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Notice of intent to seek the death penalty. Notice of intent to seek the death penalty. The state of Florida hereby notices the defendant and the court that based upon the information available at this time as to the facts of this offense and the defendant's prior record, sufficient aggravating circumstances do exist to justify the imposition of the death penalty as to this defendant in this case. Bingo, Yahtzee. Therefore, the state of Florida will be requesting the imposition of the death penalty should this defendant be convicted in this case. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb right here. Thank you, Kristen, for putting that out there. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I bet my pension, and I bet my pension a lot. I bet my pension that Stephen Stearns in the court of law, if he pleads not guilty, which I'm sure he will, when the judge and the jury get the facts and the evidence are presented to a jury, he will be convicted of all charges, of all. There is a mountain of evidence that points the finger to Stephen Stearns to prove beyond a reasonable doubt 100,000% that he in fact committed these heinous acts. 60 charges of various different grotesque levels and capital murder. So therefore, the state will be requesting the imposition of the death penalty should the defendant be convicted in this case. Pursuant to Florida statute 782.041 subdivision B, the state intends to prove and has reason to believe it can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the following aggravating circumstances exist. The defendant was previously convicted of another capital felony or of a felony involving the use of threats of violence to the person. That's statute 921.141 sub 6 sub B of the Florida statute. The capital felony was committed while the defendant was engaged in the commission of or attempting to commit aggravated child abuse. 921.141 sub 6 D of the Florida statute. The capital felony was especially heinous and atrocious or cruel. 921.141 6 H of the Florida statute. The fourth, the victim of the capital felony was particularly vulnerable due to the advanced age or disability, or because the defendant stood in a position of familiar or custodial authority over the victim. And then it's certified here by Assistant State Attorney, Division 12. This, to me, is, again, I mean, I have additional information that we read previously, and I didn't, like I said, I scanned over this document, and there is more to this. There's more to the charges, but we've read them out in the past, and it's really tough to listen to. But you guys know, if you're following this case, you know what Stephen Stearns is accused of doing. And I want to just revert to 30 days ago or more. This was April 24th. There was a press conference with the state attorney's office and also with several police executives. And they broke down the charges, the murder charges against Stephen Stearns. And I want to just go over this because I think it's important. And I do this from time to time with you guys. I try to tie in previous information to the current day and age. And this is the previous information that was just broadcast to us as it pertains to Stephen Stearns and getting charged with Madeline Soto's murder and all of the additional charges that he's charged with. And you'll hear the state attorney general, the state attorney's office, not the attorney general, but the state attorney's office give you a synopsis of what they have. So let's take a listen to this.
All right. Just a little bit, sorry. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. Today, the Kissimmee Police Chief and myself are here to provide an update on the death investigation on 13-year-old Madeline Soto, who was reported missing back on February 26th of this year and discovered dead 4 days later. I know the community and the media have been anxious for us to give an update on this case, and this is an opportunity for us to do that. For the last 7 weeks, 7.5 weeks actually, the Kissimmee Police Department and my office have been working closely to go over every piece of evidence that we could gather in this case. It was a voluminous and a lot of evidence to get through during that time, but we were successful in getting through it and making sure that we were able to provide the best case we could. Today, we're announcing that Stephen Stearns has been indicted by the grand jury on first-degree murder for the killing of Madeline Soto. We presented the case to the grand jury. They returned an indictment earlier today. There has been some questions as related to the length of investigation. I just want to let you know again that my office and the Kissimmee Police Department have been working vigilantly in making sure that we had every opportunity to get every piece of evidence that we could. I want to thank the Kissimmee Police Department.
Just so everyone's not confused, it's jumping in. This is the press conference from when he was charged with murder, and they asked him questions pertaining to capital murder. Will he be charged with the death penalty? The reason I'm playing this is this brings it full circle from April 24th, when this aired, to today. So we're going to bring it full circle, friends. So just listen to this, and it will all make sense to you.
And their tireless efforts. They've done an amazing job in the heavy lift that we've asked them to do, as well as the prosecutors that have been assigned to this case and making sure that we got every piece of evidence reviewed and gathered in this case. While death investigations usually take around 5 to 6 weeks or longer, we were able to get this one done relatively quickly and get the case to the front of the grand jury, like I said earlier today, to return the indictment against Mr. Stephen Stearns. The death penalty in this case, we have not decided to what decision we're going to make in that case. We're going to continue those discussions going forward, and we'll let you know again when we make that decision as to whether we're going to seek the death penalty in this case. I want to thank the grand jury for their hard work and their efforts in making sure that we're making this first step in seeking justice for Madeline Soto, for her family, and so the community can have closure in this case. The defendant will appear at initial appearances, I believe probably the next day or two. Then the case will proceed down its normal path, and we'll try to keep you abreast of how the case is moving, as well as you probably ask us questions to make sure that we are providing that proper information to keep you abreast of how the case is going down the normal path of the criminal justice system. I'd like now to introduce Chief of Police Betty Holland, and for her to provide comment.
Thank you, State Attorney Mr. Bain. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank the investigators and the other agencies that assisted us in uncovering the evidence to move forward with this case. We know this case has gained significant public attention because Madeleine had just celebrated her 13th birthday and was just a child. The evidence shows an individual that was entrusted to keep Madeleine safe made calculated moves to dispose Madeleine's belongings and place her body in a wooded area before she was ever reported missing. For the 4 days following her disappearance, the entire community was actively looking to find Madeleine safe and alive. Tragically, on March 1st, Madeleine's remains were found. Our detectives have worked tirelessly to piece together the events leading up to Madeleine's disappearance and death. With the collaboration of the state's attorney's office, we prepared the case for the grand jury that was heard today. The grand jury determined that our department secured enough evidence to obtain a first-degree murder indictment. We appreciate each grand jury member for their careful consideration. We want to thank the diligent work of the state's attorney's office, the medical examiner's office, and our other law enforcement partners who assisted with this investigation. Your expertise and dedication were instrumental in uncovering the truth.
So this was Chief Betty Holland. And again, that was April 24th. He was brought and indicted on the first-degree murder charges on the 29th. And then after the 29th, they had 45 days. Again, I keep saying it over and over again, 45 days to make a decision on whether they're going to charge him with capital murder. Today was that day. And they did it, and they announced it and got it done within that 45-day time frame. This is where we are. Fast forward to today, ladies and gentlemen.
We're staying on top of breaking news out of Osceola County, where prosecutors have just laid out a case for the death penalty in the murder of a 13-year-old girl. Madeline Soto, just 13, found dead in a wooded area in St. Cloud back in March, just a few days after she was reported missing. Good evening. I'm Greg Wormuth.
I'm Darlene Jones. Such a tragic story. Prosecutors told us today that they will seek the death penalty against her mother's boyfriend, Stephen Stearns, who is now charged with her murder. Channel 9's Sabrina Majore is live in the studio. And Sabrina, you read over that filing from prosecutors, and they provided a number of reasons for this decision.
And Darlene, prosecutors said a whole bunch of factors are contributing to this decision. For starters, they say the crime was committed while Stearns was engaged in aggravated child abuse. Prosecutors also say the victim was especially vulnerable because Stearns had a family-like relationship with Maddie Soto. And they say that the crime was especially heinous and cruel. According to investigators, Stearns was living with Maddie and her mother at the time. And you might recall Stearns is also facing 60 charges relating to disturbing photos found on his phone. That includes capital sex battery. Prosecutors said today if Stearns is convicted of those sex charges, that's another reason why they will argue for the death penalty. And when Channel 9 sat down with Stearns in the days after Maddie's disappearance, he told our crews that he had dropped Maddie off near a church. Soto's body was instead found in the woods less than a week.
I'm going to tell you this. Because we're not hearing anything from law enforcement as it pertains to Jennifer Soto, it does not mean that Maddie Soto's mom will not be charged. Law enforcement, when they get quiet and they don't say anything, that's when work is going on behind the scenes. And trust me, I know this. And I have to tell you that there is a very strong possibility. And people are asking me in the chat, what do you think, DutyRon? Do you think that Jennifer Soto will be charged? My answer to that is yes. I'm not privy to all the behind the scenes case investigating. Only the investigators know that. But I would have to tell you this, there is on face value of what we know enough to come up with some charges that probably won't land her substantial jail time. But if they're working the proper way and they're working this case the proper way and everything aligns, then we could be seeing something where she sees some substantial jail time. And, you know, I can play the video for you guys where Jennifer Soto says, yeah, I sanction my daughter sleeping with Stephen Stearns. That to me gives this monster the green light to have his way. Unchecked. I go out, I go shopping, I go to work, I'm out for the night. You could stay in the same bed with her. She likes to have human contact. When I heard these things, it made my blood boil. It just made my blood boil just to hear it. And now when we look at his online activities and all the things that he was up to, thanks to Oblivious Benson, when we look at these things and we look at what Stephen Stearns was up to, you say to yourself, wait a minute, 6, 7, maybe 8 years? I even said myself, I can understand maybe if this was something that just started happening, you know, some people surprise you with their actions, right? But when you're around somebody for over 5 years. How do you not know? How do you not know? It's baffling. And we look at the body cam footage, some of our earlier coverage, if that body cam footage of Stephen Stearns and Jennifer Soto reporting Maddie missing. There was no urgency. Did anybody in here not see that body cam footage of the report on Monday night, 7:40 p.m.-ish? Anybody not see that? I mean, come on. All right. I'm going to get you guys really pissed off because, well, first of all, this has nothing to do with getting you guys pissed off, but Oblivious Benson is waiting. She's coming on to give us her take on the latest. And she lives in the great state of Texas where they do have capital punishment. But the state of Florida doesn't mess around. And our great friend Ed Wallace, although he's in Morocco and it's 2-3 o'clock in the morning, he'll get this news in the morning because I already emailed him. Ed Wallace said Stephen Stearns is in the worst state to get an easy brush off. The state of Florida doesn't fuck around when it comes to this stuff. And Stephen Stearns, we'll see. He's going to be found guilty and he's going to get executed eventually. And I'm hoping that I'll be alive to see that. So now to get your blood boiling a little bit more before Oblivious Benson comes on, because she's in hair and makeup right now. I see her. She's getting ready. To get your blood boiling a little bit more, let's take a listen to this.
Continues to pour through new documents and review audio from accused killer and child rapist Stephen Stearns.
At one point, while detectives were questioning the mother of 13-year-old Madeline Soto, she described the couple's sleeping arrangements with the teen. West 2's Greg Fox is here now in studio. And Greg, this case is becoming more disturbing as we move closer to trial.
It is, and it's important to point out up front, Stearns is the only one charged with sexual assaults and murder. Madeline Soto's mother has not been charged in connection with any of the crimes that her boyfriend is facing. And as you'll see right now, she provides details that helped police build their case. Documents obtained from the state attorney's office reveal that Stephen Stearns had an on-again, off-again 7-year relationship with Madeline Soto's mother. Those documents also indicate the pornographic images allegedly found on Stearns' cell phone date back at least 2 years and depict vile acts of sexual abuse. In March, detectives provided sworn statements of their discussions with Jennifer Soto and Stephen Stearns. Jennifer Soto stated while they were together, Jennifer, Stephen, and Madeleine, would either all sleep in the same bed or Madeleine would sleep with her when Stephen was not there. When asked if it was normal that Stephen and Madeleine would sleep together without her being there, and she said yes. Jennifer Soto stated if she needed a good night's sleep due to her anxiety, she would ask them, Stephen and Madeleine, to sleep in a different bedroom.
I can't. I can't.
Oh, hell no.
That's a double oh hell no. What the F is wrong with this woman? I mean, when I first heard this, I actually had to watch this a couple of times to say, wait a minute, did I hear that right? This is a sworn document it's a sworn statement taken by detectives when they interviewed Jennifer Soto. And this is them asking her statements, these simple statements. Like these investigators had to have been saying, what in the actual fuck am I hearing?
While they were together, Jennifer, Stephen, and Madeleine, would either all sleep in the same bed or Madeleine would sleep with her when Stephen was not there.
How repulsive is that? I mean, I got a ton of mothers in this chat, and I got a ton of fathers that watch. I need more moms than dads. The analytics show, 80, 85% women watch Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed. But to the mothers out there and to the folks who aren't moms, who are aunts, uncles, Is this normal?
Asked if it was normal that Stephan and Madeleine would sleep together without her being there, and she said yes. Jennifer Soto stated if she needed a good night's sleep due to her anxiety, she would ask them, Stephan and Madeleine, to sleep in a different bedroom. In another statement, Stephan stated Madeleine always needed human contact when going to sleep. Stephan referred to it as snuggling. The conversations with Stearns came to an abrupt end when detectives revealed images allegedly found on Stearns' phone depicting sex.
I'm highlighting this and bringing this up because everyone's asking about Jennifer Soto. Why is she not charged? This is the reason why everyone's up in arms. This is the prime reason why everyone's like, what in the actual fuck is that? So I got to bring in a female's perspective and an internet detective's perspective, and she's been following this case. She's up to date on all the documents, and I know if I needed these court documents, that she would have provided them to me ASAP. Because when I asked Oblivious Benson for the digits, the info, the 411, she's on it. What's going on, Kat?
I am outraged. First of all, I'm excited that he's getting the death penalty.
Yeah.
I mean, this is great news. Good. Bye. Bye, Felicia. Get out.
Right.
We don't need you on Earth. I'm happy for that. But I'm still irritated about the Jen thing. I wanted to bring you.
Look at this statement before you go, and I hate to cut. Look at this. She pimped out Maddie. And I love the hashtags that you created in your
thank you.
Hashtag jail for Jen.
Bring back old Sparky for this one.
Hashtag justice for Maddie and hashtag old Sparky for Stephan. So sorry, go ahead.
I mean, if we're gonna bring back a firing squad, great. But if we're gonna go with old Sparky, fine, whatever. I'm so irritated by the whole Jen thing, and here's why. I know that there's a lot of people who are like, oh, we should charge her with this, that, the other. But I wanted to look at and show you guys or talk to you guys about just briefly some of the things that are different in Florida. Like Ron was talking about, Duty Ed was saying, the Florida does not fuck around, right?
Yeah, they don't.
Pardon my French. They don't. Yeah. So I started looking it up because, first of all, they said aggravated child abuse for Stephan. So naturally, that can mean different things. Like in Texas, battery, you have to physically touch someone, but an assault can be a threat. So you can just say you're going to harm someone, and here you can get charged with assault. Florida, very similar to Texas. So I want to read you guys, if you don't mind. This is the Florida statute for aggravated child abuse. So this is the status quo that Stephan would have had to meet to get the charges he got.
Could we put it up on the screen for the visual?
Yeah, let's do it. Here, I'll do a present. I just learned how to do this.
Oh, that's great.
Swiftly.
I love it. You're getting advanced.
I am. I'm figuring it all out. Let's see. Can we see it?
Hold on. I'm going to remove mine, stop my screen, and then add. I had to add it.
Here we go. So this is what Stephan would have had to do in the state of Florida, right? It says aggravated child abuse is defined as committing aggravated battery on a child, so physically harming the child, willfully torturing, maliciously punishing, or willfully and unlawfully caging a child, or knowingly and willfully abusing a child and causing great bodily harm, permanent disability, or permanent disfigurement. And then they go on to stress that it's not required that the offender be a parent or custodian. And the reason that they stress that, as I was doing a little research into it the other day and again today, is because the charges there can amp up if you're a teacher, if you're in a position of power or authority, or if you're a parent or custodial guardian. So he double whammied on this.
Yeah, because they mentioned in the docs that he was in a position of power and authority.
Mm-hmm.
They actually spelled it out.
And that's why, because if they do that, then they can add this on. Now, Florida used to have, and I'd love to do some more research on this because it might have changed, but it actually might have gotten a little harsher. They used to have something similar to the Texas 3-strike law, where basically 3 times and it's automatic life in prison for specific charges. Things like DUIs here. If you get a DUI 3 times, you do risk spending your life in prison if it's a felony. So there's specific types of levels for these things. And with him, he's getting hit with the books. But what I was interested in is we were talking about Jen. What can Jen be charged with? Well, I wanted to look at just basic child abuse and neglect first. Child abuse in Florida is, and I think that this is honestly one of the best descriptions for her. It's or neglect. It's defined as a caregiver's failure or omission to provide a child with care, supervision, and services necessary to maintain a child's health and well-being, or a caregiver's failure to make a reasonable effort to protect a child from abuse, neglect, or exploitation by another person. So that takes it a further step, because exploitation can be taking of the pictures, any distribution of the pictures. It can be in addition to the litany of things he did. But I think that she, on the or, you just have to meet one of those standards. She fits all of them. I mean, am I wrong?
No, listen, I can't really see the writing. Can you make it a little bit bigger?
Let me zoom ski in here.
Zooming. Okay. All right. But now you just gotta, okay, cool. So under Florida statute 827.03 subdivision 2, subdivision D, child neglect, as you just read out, she definitely, I don't see why the state attorney could not look at this strongly, because based on what I have here, and I got to present, I don't know if this is going to knock you out, but if it does, we'll put it right back.
It's fine.
This statement, this guy's face just makes me want to puke. Ugh. This statement that we just kept playing goes back to this.
Yeah, and the other thing is Florida takes it a step further to, in a way, protect kids even more by making it a little extra harsh, as it should be, by making basically the boundary to be reasonable. Like, you don't even have to be extremely negligent. Like, you hear about these cases all over the US where, CPS comes, it's a mess, everything's destroyed, it's not a livable environment, the kids are malnourished, and they still go, get your shit together in a week and we'll talk about it. In Florida, if there's a reasonable I hate to go back to it, but the Maya Kowalski trial, they didn't even have any reasonable reason to take any real evidence of abuse, and they still took that kid. So they'll take your kid even when you're treating them good. But in this instance,
is this a Class B felony? Because I want to see. Can you go down just a little bit? Does it? I believe it's a Class
B.
It's a
3rd degree, punishable by 5 years of imprisonment.
It's a Class C felony, 3rd degree.
It's a C. So, but then we go down to, what was the other one? It was aggravated. No, that was Stefan's up here. Just basic child abuse is the infliction of physical or mental injury upon a child. And I feel like putting her in a bedroom with your creepy pedo boyfriend because you have anxiety, not because she does, because you do, is causing her obvious mental anguish. And I do think it's odd that, I just want to go back real quick, in all their interviews, I started trying to take notes and look at it from a behavioral element, like you would a serial killer, because as far as I'm concerned, they're just as gross, if anything. He talks a lot about his pain. I know that, like, he's crying and she's rubbing his shoulders, but so does she. Like, they both mention, she mentions, I have anxiety.
Right.
My nerves go crazy. I'm losing sleep. And then Stephan says, I haven't eaten since yesterday when he finds out that she's not really at the church.
Right.
He's just been given this bombshell, which he should be, oh God, well then where is she? And he says, I haven't eaten since yesterday.
That was in that audio interview when the female detective said, we're going to take your phone. And then he practically shit himself.
That's such a classic thing too. There's a book called A Child Called It about a guy named Dave Peltzer, and it's one of the worst child abuse cases in the history of the United States. And he made a series of books, and he talked about how a lot of abusive parents, the worst ones, the ones that do the physical harm, the mental harm, and the emotional harm to the kids.
Right.
He openly talks about how they exhibit extreme narcissism, and their concern is always in themselves. Their way of telling you that they're worried about their child is to tell you about how they're doing medically.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can't take a dump, or oh, I'm starving. Like,
yeah, we saw it from both of them, and you just spelled it out here. Classic from
these
both.
are all things she could easily be charged with, physical and mental. And here's another thing. I'm pointing with my pen like you guys can see that. It's so stuck in the 90s. An intentional act that could reasonably be expected to result in physical or mental injury to a child. I was trying to think, what would the intentional act be? Oh, I don't know. Locking yourself in a room alone.
Yeah.
And forcing her with him.
Telling them to go to her father's room in the loft, right? The second room in the loft. But look at what the next line says.
Active encouragement of any person to come sleep in the bed with me and my daughter.
Hold on. This is what Jen should be hearing very shortly.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you?
Is that the Baha Men?
What?
Is that's the Baha Men, right? Who sings Bad Boys?
Yeah, it's from Bad Boys. Yep.
There's a really good comic who does a joke about all the different members of the Baha Men, and every time I hear that, I think about how many members the Baha Men had. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
I want to tell you also something crazy. I don't know if you saw this in an old video of mine, but I put it in another one recently, and people have been asking me about it in comments, and I've been giving the name of it. And I just want to tell you about this if you haven't seen it. Have you heard of Pervert Park?
You know, I did. Not from you. It was from one of our guests that we had on through Ed Wallace had mentioned that. So yeah, it's the second time I'm hearing about it. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Here, I'll show it to you. I'll show you. I'll do another share screen real quick.
Put a disclaimer out for the folks that are in the chat.
Oh no. It's a movie that was, I think it was on Netflix. It went to Cannes Film Festival. I'm just going to show you the Google search.
I'm pretty sure it was Netflix. As you do that, and go to the chat. Everybody that's in the chat, thank you for being here. Thank you for being patient. Hashtag DutyRon. Hashtag, can I tell them hashtag cat for Oblivious Benson?
Yeah.
Yeah, hashtag it's easier to put out instead of typing.
It is easier.
Hashtag DutyRon, hashtag cat. And people are saying, who is DutyRon's co-host? Her channel is going to be linked in the description, and the moderators have been putting it in the chat. It's Oblivious Benson. If you go and look up,
worst nightmare. I'm on his ass.
If you put Oblivious Benson in your search bar on YouTube, and if you give me 10 minutes after I'm done here, I'll put it in the description so this way you can see it. All right, Oblivious, you got it?
Yeah, here we go.
It went away. Okay, there it is.
There we go.
I'm adding it.
So I'm just showing you the basic Google search of it, but this is Pervert Park. So this is a place that is in Florida. And let me look at the exact place. It's St. Petersburg, Florida. It's nicknamed Pervert Park. It houses over 100 sex offenders. And the reason that they created this place, it's just a big old mobile home park, is because there were so many sex offenders in Florida that even if they were really rich and had the income and were able to get a great job, they literally couldn't physically live almost anywhere in the state because of the proximity to schools. Jeez. And, you know, with these offenses, you can't be within so many yards of a school. Right. Now, This place was built just to house sex offenders. And it's kind of on a desolate road. But actually, one of your listeners, when she asked me about this under one of your threads, what the name of this place was, I told her, and I told her where. And she was like, oh my God, I lived there, like right by there. And I moved away. And luckily I had my kids after.
Wow.
Could you imagine?
There's another location in Florida. I think it's called Maricopa Village.
Yeah, the other one,
it's another freaky spot, and I don't really get into those things often, but something right along the lines of this.
There's two of them, and I had the name of the other one.
Too bad they didn't have the firing squad in Florida. I know they have it in Idaho.
Well, they're having they used to, I believe it was Utah or maybe Washington had a hanging like less than 30 years ago, or maybe it was 50. I remember we were talking about that one of the classes.
Somebody in the chat asked, where's Jennifer's biological father?
He's in Georgia, and he was only allowed to see Maddie in 2018, I think, once.
Yeah, very rare instances that she got to see.
Very isolated from her, but he is, in interviews, he's been distraught, like absolute mess over this. Anger, fury. Poor dude.
Yeah.
Like he didn't seem to be kept in the loop a lot. And if anything, she seemed to be too lazy to put her daughter in touch with her biological father at all. It's Miracle Village is the other one.
Yeah, I know I didn't pronounce it right, but yeah, it's another whole freak show there.
And then Florida is the only other state I want to point out that had mandatory castration for or was considering mandatory castration for a treatment for sex offenders, and I believe now it is optional or ordered by a judge.
In Louisiana, I highlighted that in one of the chats. Remember? Not in one of the chats, one of my live streams, we highlighted that, where the prosecutor asked and was granted, and the defendant actually okayed it, signed off on it, on physical castration.
And then they still have to register, though. That's the thing. Yeah. And in Louisiana, you want to talk about strict sex offender laws. In Louisiana, I'm about to spill some beans here. I almost became a sex offender. Turns out you can't pee outside. It doesn't matter if you're on a long stretch and there's no other vehicles around and it's been 5 hours and no one will let you use a bathroom and you're squatting behind a tree. If they catch you, that's a sex offense in Louisiana.
Jesus.
And they'll tell you that the first time and be like, you must be from Texas. And then you'll say, I am. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to pee in the van.
Moral of the story, don't pee outside when you're in Louisiana.
Don't do it.
Aussie J, a channel member and a great friend, said, we have a much smaller version of this in Vic, Australia.
What do they do there?
Yeah. So interesting. I'd like to hear about that. Let's go to the chat, because I love to get questions from the chat. For those of you just tuning in, Stephen Stearns is charged with capital murder. Breaking news as of today, around 4 o'clock East Coast time. We got on this. I had Gabby Petito's parents on with me because we were promoting the fundraiser on Friday, which I'll be at live streaming at their request. But I had them on, and then all of this was developing, and I knew I had to do a double header. So here I am back on tonight. Let me go to some of these super chats. Susan King, thank you for the super chat. She says, little Madeleine was a casualty of her mother's perverse attachment to Stephen Stearns. I agree. I agree. Lou G, thank you for being here. She says she pimped her child out, basically. Yeah. Fucking disgusting.
And remember, they were supposed to be broken up. And even despite them breaking up, he brought her.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was confirmed by authorities, his story, because he's so full of shit.
He really is.
I was taking care of my parents. They're deaf and the dogs are annoying. You know how
they're
deaf
fine.
people are. You know, deaf people are. They're annoying. Like, really, you scumbag. And he said he came back because he was absent from Maddie and Jennifer's life since December, I think he said, right? So he was away from December, and he comes back in February on the 26th to show up and get her back into her night routines.
And what's interesting is all his coworkers at Disney who remembered why he left said that he would complain a lot about his parents and was like, I have to leave. I need to get out of this job. I have to go take care of my parents. So it sounds like in his brain, by saying that, that helped him justify to everyone else, I'm going to go be a lazy piece of shit.
Right. And it's poor me. I have to go and take care of the parents, and it was driving me crazy. I think those are the words he used. I had to get away because it was driving me crazy. You know, being around a bunch of old, grumpy people. Well, these are the people who are probably supporting you and giving you a roof over your head, you bum.
And paying off your old roommate so that you don't get charged with CSAM multiple times over.
Right. Robbie, thank you for being a member for over 8 months. CBC, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Prize Pieces, Puzzle Pieces, thank you for the $10 super chat. The only man that can stay in my daughter's bed while they fall asleep is her daddy. The woman needs to be charged as well. Thank you, DutyRon, for covering this case with respect and love. All right, wait. I got to say this. There's a case that I'm going to be highlighting that directly here, puzzle pieces. I don't doubt that your husband is trustworthy. That's your daughter. That's the father of your child. But I have a young female. I think she's 27 years old. I'm not going to put her name out there. She's going to be coming on with me on Wednesday. And I think, Kat, you might be joining us.
She's a perfect example of how a real mom reacts.
Her biological the father of her child, 2 years old at the time, a 2-year-old daughter, is charged with CSAM of his own daughter. He was selling photographs online of his own daughter to make money. This is, again, I'm not saying it, at this point, who can you trust?
I mean, this guy you're talking about, he was. Stephan and Jen, people suspect. I suspect Stephan could have potentially. I don't even know if he did. I think that he might be too selfish, or maybe he did. Jen, I just see, I've called her it the other day. She's a potato on the internet. She doesn't have, I don't think she has the skill. I think she was actually neglecting her child to the point where she willfully ignored what was going on. It wasn't like she saw it and ignored it. She's like, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I think this woman you're about to have on is a situation where this is how a real mom reacts. And an example of how you can't be too careful.
Right. She's the prime example of a mom who was taken completely by surprise. And I'm sure that any moms out there that have daughters, her daughter was 2 years old. She went to work. This is her story. She went to work and came back she got a phone call from an FBI agent, come back to the house. We need to talk to you. And
what the husband do?
He took off. He ran.
He literally physically ran away
out the door
from his family and the cops.
Left his 2-year-old inside. I don't want to give up too much of it because I want her to come on, Jordan, to tell her story. But this super chat right here says it all. And Puzzle Pieces, thank you for it. No way, that we're tying you and your husband into any of this. Again, you just, in this day and age, and again, this is a young couple in their 20s, but she thought never in a million years that she would have to deal with this. And now she's just trying to pick up the pieces. She can't even leave her daughter alone and go to work and make money because the daughter is traumatized. So, and she's traumatized and she doesn't trust anybody with her. And I don't blame her. So it's just.
And we see pictures though of you can't tell me that almost everybody in chat who grew up in a loving family or had a dad would have the pictures of the baby on the dad's chest and they sleep and that's fine. That's normal as long as it's a healthy relationship and it's the dad and the kid. We're talking not even a step parent, just a dude she was pretty much banging. And then she brought him home and said, here, sleep in bed with my daughter. I have anxiety. That's insane.
Yeah. It's utterly insane. I mean, there's no words for it. I mean,
There
I can
isn't.
sit here and just roll off the 7 words you can't say on television.
So many people have brought that up this week.
Just fuck on, cocksuck the motherfucker in tits.
Yeah,
I know it all. Right from the top of my head. But MRez, thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate that. Built to Help, thank you for the $5. I'd love to hear from Grandma. I heard Jen was actually unemployed and not at work.
She was starting a new job that was just bare minimum amount of hours so that she could keep her disability benefits and not lose them. So she was literally working like 8 to 10 hours a week around.
By the way,
she was training.
Yeah.
Training.
But this, again, law enforcement has not confirmed this, and we will hear if she in fact gets charged at trial about that. But if it's just Stephen Stearns that's going to face the music, I don't think we'll hear much about Jennifer Soto's work. But then again, they might want to clarify that she wasn't there.
When Disney separated themselves from both of them, that's when everyone went balls out, and her old coworkers came up and were like, "Oh no." And what kills me is she's allegedly working so little. And the day she picks to do her training shift is Maddie's birthday celebration.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
You have the whole week. You're only working literally like one shift and you're mooching off disability.
Right.
You couldn't have picked another day.
I pointed that out early on and I got attacked. People came at me like, some mothers don't have the option to take days off. And, I got,
and that's true. Some don't. She did.
She did. And not only that, it wasn't her actual birthday. It was during a week. If you're having it on a Sunday, what would have been the difference if your day off was Tuesday? Have it on.
Yeah. Why move it to Sunday?
Why?
If you're not going to make it. And then also, let's not forget, she has no freaking bills.
Zero.
Her dad's paying for the condo and they're collecting rent from a rogue roommate. And then he's mooching off his parents and her.
Look at all the deaf, annoying parents with the dogs.
He was buying, oh my God, I think I showed you. He was buying these figures from Japan. He was getting his currency transferred into Japanese currency. And I was looking up the shipping from Kissimmee to the parts of Japan where he was ordering Tamagotchis. You can even see the address up close on one. Oh my God, the shipping alone, even if you're using DH, like $150 to $200, almost equal or more value than what he's purchasing.
Crazy.
Where's he getting this money?
Yeah, I mean, this is all stuff the investigators are going to have to look at and take a peek at. And again, seeing if he was trading any of photos and or videos. Jersey Devil picked up on the 7 words you can't say on television George Carlin reference that I belted that out so fast that I hope nobody really caught it.
Listen, the joke that made me start doing stand-up comedy was a Carlin joke. He said, it totally relates to this. He said, I would get in trouble for cussing a lot when I was little.
Right.
And so my parents would say, if you keep doing that, we're going to wash your mouth out with soap. And I'd look right at him and say, I'll blow bubbles out my ass. I love that joke.
Yeah, that's a good one. And you do stand up, by the way.
Yep.
Guys, make sure you go and see her wherever she's doing stand up. Maybe you can, I don't know if you want to broadcast that on here.
I try to keep it separate from true crime because
right.
I don't want to exploit the exploited.
Built to Help send in $5 super chat and says, hey, Grandma didn't want either of them there at that party. I don't know.
Grandma she did look very bothered. She reminded me of the lady on telenovela that freaks out a lot that everybody makes the memes out of. She just looked kind of like, oh, can we just get on with this and find the kid? I think the aunt showed the most emotion. These are my opinions, by the way.
I agree. I agree with that. I agree wholeheartedly with that. True Crime Utah says, what was Stephen Stearns doing for work?
He had his apartment locating license, which, by the way, I used to work in that too. I've had every freaking job. And I can tell you this much. It's a 6-week course. He was, pretty much nepotized into the business. So when he didn't have his license, he basically worked like receptionist type stuff. But I've shown some of his listings. I'll show them on yours, DutyRon, next time we do something about this. But or I'll send it to you. You can show people. It's his listings for the units that he was trying to rent down. Basically, apartment locators back then, like even a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, like 2 to 3 years ago, the amount you get paid changes dramatically. But I was looking up the send escort rates, which is send someone to a property or escort them and tour it with them.
Right.
He could make 50 to 70% or 100% to 200%, depending on the market, on whatever unit he got rented out. So basically, you show someone a place, or you just email them and say, go there and put my name on this referral, and you get the first month's rent.
Wow.
So imagine a $2,200 unit.
Well, guess
and
what?
Let's say he's only getting half.
He's not going to be doing much of that anymore, because in the state of Florida, he is now being charged with capital murder.
And remember, I was telling you, what if I think I told you this, I really am concerned that he's put cameras in his old apartment. He's put cameras inside to watch his roommate's girlfriend in the bathroom. To think that he was a realtor who could access lock boxes scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, he's a frightening individual. And, people like this that were showing up on the screen, this is the face of evil. This guy's a demon. I wouldn't put anything past this guy, because you don't just you don't just have bouts of where you're doing this and then you stop doing it. These guys, like Rex Heuermann, just continue to do and to hone their craft.
And they escalate.
Yeah, they escalate. That's what I'm saying. They hone their craft. They get more and more sophisticated as they go on with their time. And I will
say, I think he's in the collection mode. I don't think he's distributed yet, or maybe he was starting to. Maybe that's what his Telegram visits were about, or he was purging his data to try to hide it on a hard drive so he could still have it later, because he was that sure of his idiot self. But there's an escalation in his online activity. You can look at the years consecutively and see more and more odd stuff. He's starting to add furries. He's starting to add different fetishes. Now he's starting to add, I told you about the gigolo site, right?
Yes.
Cowboys for Angels. Like, what the hell? Now he's trying to pimp himself.
The more we look, Kat, into Stephen Stearns' online history and stuff, and I know we owe the audience another round two. We never got able to do the round two, but the more we look at this guy, the more creepy it gets, and the more disgusting it is. But I'm happy that the state of Florida is prosecuting him. I have to get up at 6 a.m. tomorrow for work, so I'm going to cut this thing short. But Oblivious Benson, I want to thank you. Let me get rid of this scumbag. I want to thank you for whenever I say, or I ask, hey, you want to hop on? You want to join? You're like, yeah, give me 5, dude.
I'm always down.
You're like, give me 5, dude. I'll be right
there. Yeah, dude. Let me walk the dog. Although
I
I haven't seen Ed's drapes yet next to me. I need to be.
He's coming home, and
I got to see those drapes.
He cut some parts of the drapes out. And no, I'm only kidding. Yeah, but Ed is looking into.
I found the drapes, by the way.
I want to thank everybody for being here, but especially my guest here, Oblivious Benson. She is an internet sleuth extraordinaire. I told her, and I told you guys live, if I was working in computer crimes or crimes against children or sex crimes or anything like that, I'd want this girl right here as my partner, because she's a badass and she doesn't give herself enough credit, because I know what she's capable of, and you are really good at what you do, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you. Again, breaking: Stephen Stearns charged with capital murder of Madeline Soto. I hope Mr. Sparky gets lit up, or
gotta bring it back.
Injection, whatever the state of Florida does. I'm hoping that it happens quickly.
Me too.
And that we don't have to sit here and watch these lawyers put in their freaking
dirt bags.
He
should plead down to the death penalty. He should get double death penalty so that he can get a plea deal to get him just 1 death penalty. Right. And I'll be fine with that as long as he dies.
As long as he's put down.
As long as he dies.
This guy is a danger to society. He's a menace.
Make him die, God, please.
Jill says, thank you, DutyRon and Oblivious. You make a great team. Also, thank you to Ed Wallace as well. Listen, for me, it's about recognition of people who have talents, and girl power exists in this world. And she is Oblivious is a prime example of a badass woman who is, when she's on a mission, she gets it done.
This is what happens when you grow up on Rescue 911 and Unsolved Mysteries. This is what happens. And I do want to say, I'm making a special episode, and I'm going to send it to you. You could chop it up, have whatever you want, on how to screen your dates. If you are someone who's got a kid and you're thinking of going on dates and you don't want to fly fish and reel in a Stephan, I'm going to teach you how to backwards stalk a person before you even go on the date. You're going to know everything about them. We're going to go inside of their body and work our way out. We're going to find out every single little thing they did before you have them around your kid, or even have them around you and let them in your bubble. Because I understand that not all of these things can be prevented. And there are plenty of times where you build an entire life with someone and you don't know who they are. Understandable. But a predominant amount of the cases I've seen lately, Audrey Cunningham, Madeline Soto, Amani Hughes in Houston, there's like so many different cases where just one background check. I mean, with Amani, it was the guy she was chatting with, but his family could have looked into him and known because he had a family. Audrey, the guy had swastikas all over his body. Just one Facebook search. They didn't even know he was a sex offender.
I know. And
Madeline?
Here's a random one. Charlotte Senna, upstate New York, grabbed by.
That was the girl in the woods, right? They grabbed. Did they
campsite? And her aunt Janae came on with me and was the one who put me on to the case that I was talking to you about that I'm going to highlight on Wednesday. Her family reached out to me and said, "Hey, could you help highlight this girl's case of what happened to her?" She's over on TikTok. But anyway,
the Bratz dolls guy in Australia.
Yeah.
If he's got a room full of dolls that are not normal, get away from him.
Exactly.
Get away from him.
Exactly. Run as far as you can. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, now Oblivious Benson, here with me. I want to ask you guys to please stay safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel. Make sure you're aware of who's around you and what's around your children, and never become complacent. Never trust 110%. If something doesn't seem right,
like this,
something doesn't seem right, act on it. Do not just look the other way. Do not just blow it off. When it comes to our children, they are helpless. They need us. They need us to protect them. So on behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, I'm going to wish you guys a good evening. Stand by for a message from the cop team. Hey, Kat, hang out for a sec because I want to talk to you.
I will.
All right. Peace and love from Crime Time with DutyRon and Oblivious Benson. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.